The bill specifically references the possibility the court site blocking order will block lawful content to prevent Canadians over 18 from accessing lawful content. But if that includes any site that has any sexually explicit material, well then goodbye all social media, like with few exception. The war on porn. It's coming to Canada, unfortunately. Canadian MPs want to verify people watching internet porn. They admit they're not sure how their law would actually work. Legal experts say it's a poorly drafted bill that is unconstitutional and would also block access to websites unrelated to pornography. I hate to say it, but yet another shitty American thing is now coming to Canada. This idea that we have to have a war on porn and pornography in order to be able to make sure that anyone who wants to view porn is also using their legally registered like BCID or something before logging into a porn website. Members of Parliament across all parties, but partisanship aside, before the holidays and voted for legislation targeting online pornography that legal experts warn is likely unconstitutional and could impact websites that have nothing to do with pornography. Last week, a multi-partisan coalition of 174 MPs, including the Conservatives, the Bloc Québécois, the NDP, the Greens, and 15 Liberals, voted a second reading for Bill S-210, the so-called Protecting Young Persons from Exposure to Pornography Act. When you word it like this, when you say it's the Protecting Young Persons from Exposure to Pornography, well, then of course everyone's going to be like, well, I can't not sign on to this bill, right? Well, no, obviously, because are you on the other side of this issue? Do you want children to be exposed to pornography? I don't. I definitely don't. Okay, well, then here's the act. Join on. Despite warnings from experts, the bill raises major privacy concerns, opens the door to unprecedented website blocking, and undermines safety for sex workers. 133 Liberal MPs, including Cabinet, voted on the bill. Heritage Minister Pascal Onge later called the bill 210 fundamentally flawed. S210, introduced by Justin Trudeau-appointed Senator Julie Méville-Deschênes and sponsored by Pierre's Conservatives in the House of Commons, seeks to deter websites from displaying sexually explicit material to young people by requiring all website visitors verify their identity. Websites do not comply with the law could face massive fines, while internet service providers could be subject to court orders forcing them to block access to those websites. University of Ottawa law professor and Canada Research Chair of Internet Law, Michael Geis, says Bill S-210 is the most dangerous Canadian inter-bill you've ever heard of. Says while there are no real concerns about underage access to inappropriate content, this legislation is poorly drafted and dangerously broad. The bill is not limited to sites that are primarily about accessing sexually explicit material, but rather covers general purpose sites, he says. He noticed the legislation applies to any website where sexually explicit materials appear, something that could include search engines, social media platforms, online forums, or blogs. Can you imagine having to use a piece of ID to use Google? Because that's kind of the fear with this concept. It's like, can you find porn through Google? Of course you can. Yes, absolutely you can. There's too much fucking porn on the internet. It's mostly porn. Most of the servers, you know, all of those Amazon servers you always hear about, they're mostly hosting pornos. All of it. It's like it's what drives the internet. It is the currency of the internet. It is the lifeblood of the internet. And don't get me wrong. There is in many ways too much porn. Just an overabundant surplus. Just like every single kink that has ever been thought of or envisioned or even suggested has its own website practically at this point. But we shouldn't use people and a lot of people's hatred of porn and sex and kink and all that as an entry point to be able to start censoring entire websites, including social media sites, because people can put pornos on there. If you, again, as a Canadian who doesn't even enjoy porn, you don't watch porn, not your thing. You don't want to see titties, you don't want to see ass, you don't want to see cock, you don't want to see bash, you don't want to see clit, you don't want to see anything. You just don't want any part of it. And that's fine. That's totally great. But you probably use the search engine like everyone else, or you probably use social media like everybody else. And if that social media can access porn or anything that is said to be sexually explicit materials, because that's a lot. I'm sure you all remember this trick, right? Check it out. I'm about to do the meta one more time. It's free. I'm just gonna, oh, what's going on here? And now, is this, oh, not even quite enough. Okay, there we go. Now, is this sexually explicit material? Because you can use your imaginations, right? There's a blocking of the content. You can't see everything. But again, this could be sexual. Oh, I revealed that I'm still clothed. I mean, not clothed, but this could be sexually explicit material. To some, 'tis in the eye of the beholder, after all, right? Of the gooner. But the gooner gets to decide what exactly is going down. So if you got jebaited just then, think of what'll happen if you're simply watching a website that could have sexually explicit materials. Mandatory disclosure of personal information in order to be able to access Google search or Twitter strikes me as enormously problematic and an obvious privacy risk. The bill's definition of sexually explicit material not only includes pornographic videos depicting sex acts, but can also include images depicting genital organs. Oh my god, genital organs. The most sensual of all organs. If the person is female, her breasts. Yeah. Old-timey sexism really just continues to fuck women over, or people who are female presenting, because it's like, why is there always such a double standard? Like, I get it, because I love titties, I love women's titties specifically, and I think titties are beautiful and gorgeous of all sizes. Huge fan of tits. Tit man for sure, definitely a big old tit man over here. But why is it that when it's the male nipple, well, all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, that's different. Why? I don't know, really. They're both nipples. The skin says some dudes do have kind of breastises. I mean, there might be some hair on the breast. Yeah, that is weird. So in one case, a woman is basically exposing herself. Like, she's just exposing herself. But in the other one, it can just be a dude working out. Like, I could just go jogging down the street. Well, actually, to be fair, in Vancouver, there's laws that are passed to be able to not do that double standard. Women legally can jog topless here, so checkpoint there. That is good. I'm not gonna try and lie about that one. And maybe that is in your local area as well. Free to titties. The bill specifically references the possibility the court site blocking order will block lawful content to prevent Canadians over 18 from accessing lawful content. But if that includes any site that has any sexually explicit material, well then goodbye all social media, like with few exception. Instagram is one of the ones where you can't, but even Instagram, if you can show someone in a thong, I argue, you can make an incredibly sexual photo that doesn't necessarily show genital organs, right? You can have very sexual photos without genital organs. But again, that could include all social media. I don't think people realize how dangerous this whole crusade on pornos in the name of defending children truly is. Should there be safeguards to prevent children from seeing sexually explicit material on the internet? Absolutely, there should be. I think if you are a parent, or you are a guardian, or you are someone trying to look after the safety and security of children, apply blocking filters, apply every single one that you can get your hands on. Make sure that any web browser or anything that can access the internet, including phones, iPads, all that stuff, is blocked from all websites, and make sure the websites have to comply with child blocking software. Absolutely. A website that is going to have sexually explicit material should have to comply with some regulation that says, yes, absolutely, if you are using a child blocker, or this is a one of those child safe browsers, then there's no way to access our site. It is not permitted, blah, 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 because we don't want to make money from children seeing our sexually explicit material. Super easy, super simple. Children also should not be using social media, period, right? They should not be on social media. We can already see how damaging it is for all of us, all right? We all have social media brain, okay? You've got goddamn 40-year-olds who have I can't concentrate for more than 2 seconds. Why? Because you're not showing me 12 things at once. It never used to be this way, It never used to be we always had to have some kind of stimulation. We all just need that sweet, sweet dopamine and serotonin, but we need a lot of it all the goddamn time. I can't even hold normal conversations anymore. In the middle of the conversation, I'm like, I'm sorry, but can you put a video of someone slowly cutting a cake behind you? Or maybe a cake that doesn't even look like a cake. It would be even better if I didn't know it was a cake at first, but then as the knife slowly, I'd be like, oh my god, oh my god, that's cake. I didn't know that was cake. That's darling. Wow. Could you just hold an iPad behind you and do that while you're talking? And then I'm totally interested in that story about how you just lost your house or something. I don't know, something like that. Anyways, finish it. But cake, please. Yeah, neat. Emily Laidlaw, University of Calgary and Canada Research Chair in Cybersecurity Law, says that while she believes privacy should not be the beginning and the end of debates about online harm, she agrees this legislation is overbroad and could have alarming consequences. I mean, its focus is on sexually explicit content, which I think is a good thing, but it's not focused on just sites that are predominantly for distributing pornography. It captures all websites, all social media. I need everyone to wake up, not just Canadians who are kind of like, oh, but does this mean I still get my only? Yes, you get your OnlyFans, absolutely, but you may have to now put in your BC government ID or your local ID to be able to access it, or hell, maybe even your passport at one point, simply to be able to look at something. And you're like, but I don't use it for porno. I'm one of the few. I'm one of the people who just wants to see weaving basket videos by an expert, and it's on OnlyFans. They do have their cock out while they're weaving the baskets, but it's not about that. It's about the baskets. I'm deeply concerned about technique, cock wrapping. This concerning part about the legislation is it actually contemplates website blocking and is far more broad to ask us as a concern of children accessing material when they shouldn't. Under a proportionality analysis, that's just deeply problematic. I don't think MPs voting for this bill have thought through the implications of it all. It is simply a response to a perceived harm of underage access to pornography without the regard for the harm this bill would create. It is sweeping legislation that the right are silent on, that the Libs, the right, and the NDP, shame on you. All the parties have MPs that are voting on this. If it's just that, like, oh, I didn't know. It said preventing underage children from accessing pornography. Why wouldn't I support that? Cool. You get paid lots of money by the people to do a job. Your job is to read the bill, not just the fucking headline. We're allowed to do that. You know, us civilians, we're the clowns. We're paying you lots of money to be able to look at these things and then be like, oh, so while it does say this and it's worded this way, I looked at it, this basically is going to be way more overreach than we should be doing, and it's going to concern search engines. Yes, Google. Did you want to have to put in an ID just to look at Google? No? Well, then fucking shut this shit down. Like, if experts, legal experts are like, this isn't really about protecting kids. This is like way more sweeping overreach. I mean, it's worded as protecting kids, and I understand why anyone who sees this bill might be like, it says it's preventing access for underage children to pornography. And who doesn't agree with that? Yeah, I agree with that, absolutely. Let's talk about what measures can be actually taken to be able to prevent that. Not having to use your ID to log into Google, because Google can then be used to look at porn. The same thing applies to almost all social media. Like, if you have to log on to a social media site, and some people who want to use that social media site can go look at whatever filthy, disgusting, delicious pornography they want, that's up to them. Absolutely, because some sites will have pornographic content, and people do seem to want to really search it. Have you seen what the top searches in Google were? Sorry, no, not Google. Pornhub, that whole Pornhub, like top, every state's particular, what is it, predilection? Is that the word? What they crave, that kind of stuff. 2S10 specifically requires the collection of, quote, personal information from online porn users by having an undetermined entity use this unspecified method to verify their age. Although MPs themselves admit they're not exactly sure how this age verification system would work in practice, Conservative MP Karen Avicii, this bill sponsor, admitted during the debate that she was not sure how to verify pornography users, but trusted the Standing Committee on Public Safety and National Security could brainstorm some ideas. Ooh, sounds fun. Yeah. What the fuck happened, to the internet? It was supposed to be this Wild West, when it first came out. I'm old enough to remember the dial-up internet and how every single time, you'd have a parent or a relative pick up the phone, they'd be like, oh, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden you get called, Mom! Oh, no, I was playing StarCraft! I was just about to do the StarCraft! Fuck! Yeah, it sucked. It wasn't great, and it's much better now that you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. And even at the start, like, not a lot of people had the internet, and then it was kind of just this novelty, and then parents never really understood it. They're like, what, you go onto a computer and you connect to other computers? Yeah, and you can make a site on the web, a website, and people can click on it. But then, like, after that, everyone started to get really excited. We went through this whole kind of like cyberpunk era, and there was like Johnny Mnemonic and The Matrix and other amazing Keanu Reeves movies that were talking. Oh, and Hackers, can't forget Hackers. And it felt like the future, the possibilities were endless. We'd have an infinite access to information and an infinite access and be able to share and distribute everything, that we democratize the very idea of knowledge, and we could perhaps have just free universities and schools. And while you do have that concept, the whole accreditation process is pretty crucial to being able to have a lot of institutions that are university campuses, which are essentially real estate businesses at this point. But long story, I don't want to digress too much into that. But it's not like this anymore. The internet, it's like 5 or 6 companies. They run all of it now. All the websites we all go to and love. Not saying I don't love these websites. I do love my YouTubes. Big YouTube fan. Enjoy Twitch. I'm twitching right now. Yeah, I'm actually on YouTube right now too. So I'd be a hypocrite if I said I didn't like these sites. But I just don't. I don't like that a single handful of companies with a very, very small executive board and then obviously shareholders do play a role, but a very small amount of accountability at the end of the day as to what they can have and or contain. And now the idea that to even use those websites, to even access to the few websites that we now still all use collectively, you may have to put in information that is then registered in a private database by the government just to watch YouTube, to search Google, Like, heaven forbid, if someone wants to, enjoy some OnlyFans content, not pornography, there's other stuff on there, I'll have you all know. What do you recommend then? I recommend speaking to experts, both in the fields of technology as well as those who develop this kind of information, in order to determine what's the best system in place to be able to prevent, what works the best to be able to keep children from accessing elements of the internet. First off, I don't think children should have access to social media, period, at all. And most social media sites would agree. I believe the minimum age to be able to sign up for a lot of social media sites is 13, so you cannot be under that age. So children shouldn't be using social media at all. And I think that you should have absolutely child software filters. There's tons of browsers that a lot of websites should have to, if they don't already, comply with, but the majority do. Like big websites, a lot of the MindGeek, no, it goes under another name. A lot of those websites do have to comply with that. If you are using child filters or child browsers or anything like that, that there is no way to access their websites because they, yes, don't want to profit off children accessing their content if it's pornographic. Put that stuff in place, absolutely. Do not let children unsupervised use the internet or sign up for social media or try to sign up for social media by lying or trying to work their way into those kind of sites. And there should be absolutely those websites should comply with those kind of orders. Absolutely, no question. But this is just collective punishment of anyone who wants to use the internet under the auspices of protecting kids. And yeah, it's hard to talk about because if you are an MP who's signing off on this shit, the bill is worded in such a way that if you didn't support it, you kind of sound like a pedo, right? If you're like, why didn't you support the bill specifically called protecting underage kids from accessing sexually explicit material? What did you have a problem with?
Oh, sorry, a bit of time here, but if I could respond, I did actually read it. A lot of my contemporaries did not read the bill, but when you read the bill in detail, it says that it's actually very broad in scope and can stop people from using social media sites, any social media site that they determine has sexually explicit material, which may or may not include whole. It doesn't need to include whole to qualify under that. Like, no chance you'd get a handful of those words out in Parliament. You'd start talking and someone would be like, pedophile, groomer, how dare you? We know the VPNs are a concern. Bloc Québécois said they echo this. I am not a magician. Well, that's good, member of parliament. I never thought you were a magician. And I do not have a magic wand. What are we doing here? What are you saying? Why is Canada always so deeply embarrassing? No one can ignore the fact that this bill is not a silver bullet. A minor who wants to view pornography illegally could resort to circumvention methods like virtual private networks and so on to get around the age validation mechanisms. How do you know this much shit, but you're completely fine with a bill that's like any social media site that can access sexually explicit material defined just as that should require you to put an ID in, and that should be in a database held by, say, a government entity like CSIS or something. Yeah, fun. Like, I'm sorry, but all the people who like get off to basket weaving cock shit on OnlyFans, if you have to access that by suddenly putting in all your personal information, even that seems like an overreach, right? Like how much information is necessary for an individual to have to put in? Oh, my social insurance number. Absolutely. I mean, we do need to protect them kids. Oh, yes. Well, I know you need a credit card, but oh, you need two. And banking info. Of course. Yes, absolutely. To protect them kids. Oh, man. In 20 minutes, I'm going to get the hottest cock basket weaving action on the internet. I can't. Oh, it needs a 24-hour waiting approval. No problem. We'll sit back and wait 24 hours. We're gonna get that weave. Green Party MP Mike Morris told Press Progress he voted for Bill S-210 despite its clear shortcomings, but remains hopeful the National Security Committee can work out the kinks. Don't do this. Don't pass sweeping legislation that contains a lot of measures that are going to invade people's privacy and control and be able to... I don't want third parties to have vast amounts of more private information that they can sell at a cost. But now all of a sudden it's like, oh, we'll work out the details later. Interesting you'd use the kinks. I was torn on this vote between what seemed to me like a well-intentioned effort to safeguard against underage access to sexually explicit content and what Mr. Geist and others point out are clear shortcomings when it comes to privacy. Ultimately, I decided to support sending it to committee before exploring how concerns could be addressed through the amendments. In 2021, Privacy Commissioner of Canada Daniel Theron warned the Senate committee that the collection use of data needed for age verification, including revealing adults' private browsing habits, as well as other breaches of unauthorized use or reputational harm. Like, is the day going to go away when you used to be able to log onto your computer and perhaps explore some things? As an adult, as an adult. You know, as an adult, you suddenly go on a computer and be like, well, I don't know how I feel about this, but perhaps just this one time, I'm going to, you know, and I'm speaking as Michael Knowles here, see what all this sissy hypnotic porn is all about. And then you watch one and you're like, well, I mean, this is inconclusive. I'll probably need more research, you know? I'll probably need to learn more about this, so I'll probably have to watch a couple more 100 hours before I truly understand what this is all about. And then, you know, you've done your research, obviously, for research purposes. You want to talk about this. You're a professional, after all. And then suddenly you realize a thing or two about yourself. A discovery, if you will. You might awaken something, or perhaps it was something that was in you all along you didn't know, and suddenly then you're realizing there's more to life, that life is beautiful, that it's a rich tapestry, that it's not as simplistic. It might not just be a binary after all. It could be a spectrum of earthly delights and pleasures. Who knows? But to do that, you may have to put in all of your personal and private information. That information may be held by a government database. You may need to await an approval process. And all of that could be not for something, you know, as potentially delightful as hypnotic sissy porn, but it could just be because you wanted to use fucking Google. Yeah. I find this to be a problem. I'm going to be honest. Back in my day, we found prawns in the woods. Well, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. That, you know, finding one of those coveted magazines, the publication. The Mike Johnson and Friends of the U.S. would love this. That's true. That's true. And like, honestly, this has been proposed in a number of U.S. states, which is why, yet again, Canada, you can't even be fucking original in your weird-ass shit. Like, all of these crusades, the shittiest thing about a lot of them is that, like, they always get advertised as this is to protect children, or deep down, this is about them kids, right? We got to protect them kids, which, of course, on its surface, when you word it that way, everyone's going to be like, yes, I would like to prevent children from seeing sexually explicit material online. Absolutely. Yes. But here's the thing. For a lot of these websites, and this goes back to the entire, you know, boobless meta that's going on right now. If a woman wears a bathing suit, but then puts a couple black bars that covers, you know, the genital organs, then everyone loses their minds because everyone suddenly in their brains is like, well, this looks like this. You're completely naked. You are completely naked. Yes, there's a lot of skin being shown. This is disgusting. Disgusting. This woman has enormous breasts, giant breasts. Look at that. Well, I assume they're giant. The square is very big. Like, disgusting. And it's like, yes, because Twitch is a website for kids. And because it's a website for kids, we have to keep kids from seeing this potentially sexually explicit material. When you look at the actual data, it's pretty clear. Twitch is not primarily a website for children. The majority of the users of this platform are over 18 years old. Well over 70% of the people who watch Twitch are over 18. And yes, adults can want to see adult content. Put filters on it. Yes, this is explicitly 18 plus, this stream. I am going to have not nudity, but implied nudity, you know, and sometimes, you know, this is all it takes. But bam, yes, implied nudity going down right now. Or is it? We don't know, but it is down and it's going, and it's, yes, this could be implied nudity. Again, this in and of itself, if this is something that an adult wants to see, they should have access to being able to do that, and they shouldn't have to worry about putting in all their private information or personal information or whatever it is to be able to access nudity, you know?
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Can you please hit the like and subscribe button and maybe leave a comment? It really does help the videos out. But first, the people who produce everything you see before you and make this entire channel possible: Amazing Fletch, Anna Loves Riley, Ariane McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Salim, Multimondi, Omni, Peanut Butter Blondie, Political Puppy, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Ruby K, Cernicus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian Demel, Trevbot.exe, Words Greenwood, and Travis McClinton. And also, thank you to every other person who helps fund this show. Their names are on the screen right now. It would not be possible without every single one of them. We cannot thank you enough. And if you want to join the Patreon, please come to patreon.com/theserfs and help us exist.